Welcome everyone to Three Guys, One Music. I'm Jamie. I'm here with Mike and Grant, as always.
Hello.
What is happening, guys?
Oh man,
Just another day.
just another beautiful day.
It is a beautiful day.
It was a beautiful day here.
Was it beautiful?
I didn't see very much of it, but out the window it was beautiful.
I was talking to someone that I know quite well in North Carolina, and they said that you guys have actually been a little colder recently.
Recently,
The weather's
yeah,
been-
it's just
yeah.
warming up for us.
just started a little warming up trend, which is going to be fine. It's supposed to be 60 something tomorrow, I think,
Oh, is that right? Yeah,
Ooh.
and then Tuesday I think
See.
64 or
Yeah.
5 maybe.
supposed to be pretty mild all week, I think.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah.
It'll be a high of 40 here tomorrow. Wow. That's definitely the warmest day we'll have had
Wow.
in some time. It's been below freezing for the last couple weeks.
Mm.
Some days about a high of 15. So it's been pretty cold.
That's what happens when you're up there near Canada, eh?
Yeah, this has been a tough winter for people up here. Yeah,
Mhm.
this has been the harshest winter they've had in some time.
Oh, how was your visit to Lake Placid?
It was beautiful.
Did you see any gators?
I didn't see any gators. The lake is frozen over.
Mhm.
It is completely frozen over. Everything over here is frozen over, and even the ferry that I took to Plattsburgh yesterday. I mean that you could see in the picture that I
Ice in the water, yeah.
It's everywhere. So it's and the ferry was stopped on certain dates whenever we were having a high of 5 degrees or whatever, and I guess it was just too difficult of a voyage. But I
Yeah.
heard somebody tell me that. But yeah, it was beautiful. Lake Placid is, of course, where the Winter Olympics were a couple times, 1932 and 1980.
Yep.
And it's just a beautiful little area. The town itself, I saw some areas yesterday that I had not seen. I visited Lake Placid with a companion a few years ago. Won't say her name. She knows who she is if she sees this. It's a beautiful little town. It's kind of like a place that the hipsters go. There's a lot of well-to-do people there, I'd say, and it's just very nice. But it's a small town. Boy, it's small. It's really one street. I mean, one
Yeah.
main street, and then you have some neighborhoods. But Whiteface Mountain, which is a ridiculously scary slopes. I was driving by looking at that yesterday. I couldn't believe how steep they were. Yeah, I love that area. It's and the surrounding areas are just really beautiful. It'd be great any time of the year.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But, it's way up there. If you ever get a chance to go to the Adirondacks, Lake Placid is worth a visit, in my opinion. Very
That
nice.
sounds nice. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was a nice day. Some sunshine. Certainly coming back over the lake. It was a beautiful view. That was
Yeah.
really nice.
There's a nice
But-
studio up that way, near Shokan, I believe. If I'm pronouncing it right.
I don't know.
Anyway, yeah, I know Rush has recorded there, and
Oh, that's in the Catskills. The
is it
Catskills.
the Catskills?
is-
Okay,
Yeah, that's in the Catskills. That's several hundred miles south. This is almost in Canada.
yeah,
Lake Placid is very, very close to the Canadian border. Yeah, the Catskills. I don't know that. I can't think of the name of that studio, but yeah, it's close to the Catskills. That's right after you get. It's between Albany, the capital region, and New York City.
yeah,
So,
on the western side, yeah.
And that's a more hipster area. I didn't mean to say that. It's the opposite of that. It's very earthy. It's very
Mhm.
down to earth.
It's hippie, not hipster.
Yes, Saugerties and Poughkeepsie aren't very far away. Saugerties is where the band recorded music from the Big Pink.
Hmm.
That house, I have a picture of that on Google Maps. It's been seen by a lot of people.
I think you showed that to me one time.
Yeah. It's a beautiful community as well. But yeah, I love upstate New York. For people who have only been to New York City or think of New York as New York City, they don't realize how beautiful the state is. It's one of my favorite states in the
Oh
country.
yeah,
It's really, really nice. It has some
Yeah.
beautiful, beautiful scenery. Very nice. So yeah, it was nice
Yeah.
to drive around there yesterday and take the ferry for the first time in a couple of years. I've done that a handful of times, but it's always a treat. It's just kind of neat to do that when you don't do it all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and in the winter, there's really nothing to do but drive around if the streets are all right.
Yeah, and the roads were good
If
yesterday.
if you want to be outside, you know.
Yeah, the roads have been challenging up here, but the roads were really good yesterday. I didn't have any issues, so it was nice. It was a very nice day to get out and about and
Excellent.
see some new areas. So we're going to talk about what we've been listening to. Which one of you guys like to go first?
Well, let me burn through my list. Tried to listen to Descartes and Kant. Again, that's something I really need to sit down quietly at home with headphones and
Yeah.
listen to. I try to listen to it at work. That's where I listen to most of my music. And
Yeah.
it's an album, their latest album. Can't think of the name of it, but it's something that's really involving and needs your attention. They're so good though. They're a fun listen. Black Uhura or Huru, I can't say it. Black Uhuru. Listen to some of their stuff.
It's really fun to hear you say that, though.
Yeah. I'll practice so I can say it again next time.
I enjoyed it.
But Robbie and Sly played on it, produced so many of their albums, and they're so good. I think up until 86, they were their rhythm section, but phenomenal reggae group.
Right.
If you're into that, listen to a bit of Moby Grape. I've been going back to the psychedelic 60s here and there and listen to Moby Grape for a day. A lot of good stuff, a lot of good folky psychedelic blues.
Yeah.
And my wife hates them. She hates to hear it. Ian Dury and the Blockheads. I think Ian Dury is just brilliant. And his band is so talented. If you just listen to the music on the Ian Dury albums, the backup band is really good. The music's really tight, and Ian Dury is such a performer. I was going to break into "Hit Me with Your Rhythm Stick," but I'll save you guys listening to hear my voice, much less Ian Dury's with that and sex and drugs and rock and roll and anything. Ian Dury is a lot of fun, talented artist. It's good listen.
I think what would surprise you though, he's a huge Steely Dan fan. He loves yacht rock.
Yeah,
It's not.
He does.
I could see that.
He does. You know, I love artists that are listen to everything, and maybe it's very different from what they represent themselves as, which I think is totally valid. I totally love that. Because I have such a schizophrenic taste. I love so many weird things. And they all satisfy something in me.
I think it's exciting to hear, like Ian Dury, hear that he's a big Steely Dan fan, band or type of music you wouldn't expect him to appreciate. It gives you an idea that they're a little deeper listener or artist than you might imagine on the surface.
I think what happens is when you have an artist like that, this is just my opinion. I could be wrong, but I think I'm right, is that you have something to say. You're an artist.
Yeah.
You express yourself however that is, and you figure out what the best way to do that. But you also have a taste of stuff that you maybe are not capable of doing yourself, but you really have a true appreciation for it. And I think that's awesome. I think that as long as you're expressing yourself however it is, it's like, well, I like a lot of things other than this. I think that's the case with Ian Dury.
Yeah.
We can't all do that, but we can do something, that's cool, maybe. And we can express ourselves and other people can get joy out of it, but we're not capable of maybe on that level of Steely Dan necessarily. But
I think you hit the nail on the head there. You can appreciate so many different forms of music and different artists, but when you find your voice, it doesn't necessarily include that style, but those different styles inform what you do, I think, because it's such an influence.
Yeah, I'm sure metal guys listen to a lot of other stuff than metal, but that metal's just what they play,
Right.
What's the Joe Jackson song that Anthrax covered?
Got done.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's kind of in that vein.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, they're covering Joe Jackson. That's quite different.
Quite.
Yeah, if they were to have
Like-
done Is She Really Going Out With Them, that would be weirder.
Yeah, any
Yeah.
Anthrax covering Joe Jackson at all is pretty out there. So
Yeah,
that's
it's
a lot
got a
of
heavy,
fun.
it's got a great bass line. It grooves.
Yeah,
It's fun. I think that's what music should be, is fun.
yeah, exactly.
You know, it shouldn't, all be about a message. It should be
Yeah, it had to
entertaining.
be serious all the time. Have some
Gotta
little
be-
fun.
It's gotta
Yep.
be fun.
Sprinkle some fun in there as well.
Grant, what have you been listening to that's fun?
um,
I put you on the spot.
fun. I would say I've been listening to some Coheed and Cambria, and some of their songs have some fun in them. They're not all serious all the time, and the arrangements are so fun. And I'm not kidding. There are some great arrangements in some of their songs. What else? Been listening to some Bill Stewart, jazz drummer. Trying to think, not a lot. Mogwai as usual. Been going through. So I would just go through and put on queue up 5 or 6 albums and just let them play while I'm working on stuff. And it's funny when you're half listening, but then you catch yourself distracted because a certain part or melody, pulls you out of what you're doing and back into the music.
Yeah.
And then you can go back to what you're doing, and it happens a couple of times. Depending, it could be anything. It doesn't have to be instrumental or whatever. But been listening to some. You said Moby, and I was like, "You listen to Moby?" I listened to Moby, not the grape version, but the Moby version.
I like Moby.
The play album, specifically the A and B sides. There's the double disc where there are some vocal tracks, and then there are a lot of ambient stuff as well.
Mhm.
Just stuff for cold weather, I guess. It hasn't quite warmed up yet.
I was going to say something about that in just a second.
Mhm.
How music affects or informs our listening decisions. It does me.
Mm-hmm.
It does me absolutely. But it's funny that Coheed and Cambria and Moby were both mentioned by me and another guy at the hospital.
Oh, wow.
This just a couple days ago. Yeah, Friday we were talking about. I'm just still getting to know the staff there, and I played some Sex Pistols the other day for one of my buddies there, and this other guy said, "Now you're talking." And I was like, "Oh, you like this?" I was like, "Oh man, cool." I listen to the Sex Pistols all the time, just various tracks. I
Yeah.
never sit down and listen to Never Mind the Bollocks from top to bottom, but certain tracks I just am a big fan of. But cool, man. I like that. I like I've been listening to yesterday when I went to New York, I decided to put on My Morning Jacket. And there's certain tracks of theirs. I've been a big fan of theirs for many years now. And they just have so many different moods. And I just knew that was going to work for my driving yesterday, and it did. And today I was listening to Bob Seger. Just his greatest hits. I just felt like a Bob Seger day. And I
Yeah.
was talking to somebody yesterday about the song Main Street. A mutual friend of ours who I've been sharing some music theory with. And I suggested listening to that song, and for an example of something. And so anyway, I just thought, God, that's such a great song. I always love that song. And it's funny, I've always associated him with summer. But
Yeah,
yesterday,
I can see that. Yeah.
he's a summer artist for me. But yesterday today it worked, because it's still quite cold. And I've been listening to Band of Horses. Big fan of theirs, have been for a long time. Very mellow side to them. I much enjoy their thoughtful songs more than their rocking songs.
Yeah.
They just have a sound that I really enjoy. And finally, I've been listening to, and I didn't go in chronological order, not at all. This is Enrico Rava Cacciapare, his solo record from 1973. It's just, I sent you guys a link earlier today. I just love that record. It's just got that late 60s, early 70s funkiness, not funkiness in terms of rhythm, but funkiness in terms of kitschiness.
Mhm.
Yeah, I listened to that track you sent, and I was like, "That is very kitschy." Is a good word.
Yeah, it just has there's something about that era that the music had that you either like it or you don't. I love it. It's something that you would hear in a Quentin Tarantino movie. Is that period of music, and it just works for me. But I really enjoy the compositions and the sonics of that record. So that's what I've been listening to.
I haven't had a chance to listen to that yet, so I'll have to check it out.
It's a really short piece. I think it's only two and a half minutes, 3 minutes. Nothing
Yeah.
too challenging. It's just really, it just
pretty
has a
quirky,
vibe to it. I like it.
Yeah, it's pretty quirky, and then it goes into like a almost standard type of jazz thing there at the end.
Yep. So today we're going to talk about the musicians and artists who we feel are really kind of underappreciated, maybe as a way you could put it, or they're just like I don't know if unsung heroes would be accurate because I think a lot of people do know about them, but they're less known, but really, really important to a lot of great music. So that's going to be what we focus on today. And would either of you guys like to get started, or would you like me to go?
I'll go.
All right.
Okay.
I will go. Let's
Diving
see.
right in.
Who I'm going to start with here. I picked 5 drummers that have had an influence on me.
All drummers.
Yeah, all drummers, me and my playing, and how I think about drums and how I hear drums. Because these are not household names. Obviously, if you're into music, you might know the name,
Right.
but most people wouldn't recognize the name. And so just show a little bit of love to the guys who are in the trenches and been doing it and making songs that you've heard sound really good, but you don't even know who it is, a lot of times. I will start with, let me start with Andy Newmark. He's played on a ton of stuff. I believe the first thing he played on was Carly Simon's Anticipation album. So if you've heard early Carly Simon, you've heard Andy Newmark. If you've heard some Roxy music, you've heard Andy Newmark. He plays on one of my favorite albums of all time, which is by the band ABC, their second album called Beauty Stab, which was complete flip-flop from when they came out.
Mm-hmm.
It was way more guitar-oriented, drums-oriented, nothing like kind of dancey or pop music. It had some serious subject matter, but the drumming on that album is amazing. And it's not chops, it's not fancy, it's just solid drumming where you hear it and you're like, oh, that's a perfect choice to play, and he played on John Lennon's Double Fantasy.
I was just getting ready to ask about that. I thought that was.
Yeah, that's him.
I remember that.
Yeah, I jotted a few notes down here. Let's see. Oh, yeah, he did play with Sly and the Family Stone for a couple years. He played on one album and toured with them for 2 years. So got that funk as well. Played with George Harrison.
Yeah. Probably the 74 Dark Horse era.
Yeah, and I think he played with when George did the he did with Ravi.
That was the Dark Horse era.
Same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
He played with Bowie some. He played on Dreamweaver, Gary Wright. Played that. Let's see. I said Roxy Music, Double Fantasy. Yep. He played on one track on the Final Cut album of Pink Floyd.
Oh wow, is that right?
Yeah, Two Suns in the Sunset, because it's in an odd time, and no slight to Nick. He's played in odd times before, but it was a very, very odd time. When you listen to it, I'm not sure if it's 5. I think it's in 5. But the song Two Suns in the Sunset, it's got this you know how an odd time will have that odd lope in there. And that's the only thing I can think of. I don't know why Nick wouldn't have played on it. Just like when other drummers can't get something and somebody else just says, I hear it like this, you know?
Mhm.
Right. Well, Nick played in 7 on
Yeah.
Monday.
Yeah, exactly.
But Jeff Caro did play on the wall for whatever
Yeah.
reason on was it Goodbye Mother? I think it was a Mother or Goodbye Blue Sky. One of those two.
Yeah, well, probably Mother, because that's odd.
Yeah.
That's got a very odd feel
Yeah.
to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
But,
I'd heard of him mentioned playing with Pink Floyd, but I didn't know where he played. So that's
Yeah, and I believe
Interesting.
he played Roger Waters solo stuff, and he had actually toured. They actually had a falling out, unfortunately. If you know about Roger, you know about Roger, and
Yeah.
it's easy to probably have a falling out with him.
this is my surprise face.
Yeah. But
So you were talking about Andy Newmark or Jeff
yeah,
Caro?
yeah.
Andy Newmark, yeah.
Newmark, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know, I think that when you've got the Chuck Rainey, this is just a quick side note. Chuck Rainey talked about having an argument with Donald Fagen on the Night Fly solo record. And, Chuck Rainey's a celebrated, amazing musician, and Donald Fagen did some fantastic work with Steely Dan, but he didn't agree with Donald Fagen that day. And I think their careers haven't intersected since. He stood his ground. It's like, you're wrong. I don't like the idea of this, and you just have to do what you have to do,
I see both sides because I've worked with a lot of different people before, and sometimes I've been a co-writer or a semi-producer, and other times I've just been like, you're just here to play, and I do what they tell me, and I'm like, this is terrible, but that's just my opinion. That's what they want me to do. I do it,
Yeah. Early in your career, you're much more apt to do that. After you've had a certain amount of success and you're a celebrated artist, you might say, I don't think I want to do that.
Yeah. And I can get that, because if you think something's not up to your level, or if you just don't like it, you don't want to participate. And I get that. I don't think it's a reason to.
He discussed in a Rick Beato interview that he did,
Okay,
but I can't remember the specifics. I just know I don't recall what song it was, but he did talk about it. But so Mike, what is your first pick?
One of the I'm losing my mind. Let me figure out how I'm going to say this. One of the bass guitarists that I don't think gets enough credit, that everyone's heard, but you don't. I'm sure a lot of people don't know his name. Would be Brian Ritchie, Violet Femmes. Their first album was so raw, and I don't know if he played acoustic bass on that, but it sounds like an acoustic bass, and it's just so big and bold and fun.
I believe it is acoustic.
Yeah, it sounds so much like it. I think there are 1 or 2 tracks that it might be electric, but his playing and choice of notes, he's just a brilliant musician, and I love listening to the Violent Femmes just for the bass. Most of their albums, he stands out. The first one was really good, whether it's Blister in the Sun or Add It Up or and really any of the songs on there, but he stands out as an influence on me because I just love that bright piano kind of sound, and him hammering on the acoustic bass. It really stands out. It's very hard to miss, even if you're not listening for the bass. So I think he's excellent. He certainly deserves more recognition.
I agree. I think he's
first
really
2 albums are extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
And their first album, of course, I don't know if it's still the thing, but I remember for years when our friends went off to college, and years more that I've been to college and met freshmen there, like the Violet Femmes is the first album they all buy, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
And you hear that in the dorms just blasting down the hallway.
Over and over.
Everybody, that's like the college freshman album.
And REM.
That and REM, yeah. But Violet Femmes, great album, great musician, and Brian Ritchie.
I think that's a theme. It's definitely a theme with my picks is, like you said, the parts he chooses, they're not, like I was saying, Andy's playing, it's not over the top, but it catches your ear as a musician or drummer, bassist, whatever.
Mhm.
So probably same thing with guitar, anything. It's not. It can be just a small little, tiny little thing, but it's perfect. And
Yeah.
it has an influence. Like, wow, I want to write something that I can do something similar. Not a copy, but obviously put
Yeah.
my own little mark on it by doing just one little tiny thing. And it might even be nothing to someone who's not really into it, but to someone who's paying attention to that instrument, it is the perfect part.
Yeah. I think someone who appreciates that kind of thing, and whether it's a flourish or leaving something out, taking command of that space, whether you're playing something or not. When you can appreciate that, that's exciting when you feel that,
Mhm.
and that catches your ear. That's all
I
I got.
agree. I agree. I like
Thanks,
it.
Forrest Gump.
Yeah, I'm gonna not go in chronological order today. I'm gonna fight the urge.
Oh no!
All
Wait.
right.
I'm gonna talk about Keith Scott from Bryan Adams.
Oh, okay.
Keith Scott is one of those guitar players that played the right phrase and with the right feel on so many of Bryan Adams tracks, and has been his right hand man for 40 plus years.
Yeah.
Cuts like a knife. Run to you. Everything I do it for you.
Well, yeah, just about everything. Yeah.
Just about everything. Just so good. He's definitely one of my favorite rock players from the 80s and beyond. Very tasteful, great feel, understands how to write a complimentary part. I definitely think that he has propelled Bryan Adams' work. I think without his uh, addition to the band, I think that it would have been different. There's some still great songs, but Keith Scott has really been, I think he's really propelled those songs in a good way. And I really think he's an important factor in that band, and more people should know about him that aren't musicians.
Well, someone hearing a Bryan Adams song, if they're going to air guitar the solo, then you've done your job, because it's good enough solo to catch your ear and to mime. I can't listen to Bryan without I'm waiting for the guitar solo, because and I've heard it 1,000 times, but it's just so cool. And he's hanging back, he's playing the right notes. He's not trying to show off or anything like that. He's playing what the best part for the song.
Yeah.
Eddie Van Halen paid him tons of compliments over the years. So it's like, that guy's bad, man. He just really plays great parts. It's all about music. It's not about showing off. It's about music.
Yeah.
And
you think about being together with Bryan Adams for so long. He's become part of the voice of Bryan Adams and those songs.
Absolutely.
That's like Larry Crane was with Mellencamp for so long.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was sad to see him go.
Yeah,
I really felt
too.
like I guess he just felt like, you're not paying me enough, man, for my contributions. I guess that's the way it was for all those guys, unfortunately.
Yeah. He and Kenny had a falling out too. They're on good terms. The drummer that was his longtime drummer as well. But
the Kenny Aronoff and Larry Crane are they on good terms?
Yeah, they're on Mellencamp. They had a kind of falling out. Now they're back on good terms, but
good.
And kind of the same. This is part of your signature sound.
Yeah.
Without us, you wouldn't have this sound. And I think it is indicative of all my people. And I said before, they're playing the right part for the right song, just like Keith, and it would sound different with a different player making different choices.
We've discussed that many times here on this podcast. Everybody has a different feel. I mean, it doesn't regardless of your sense of time, you hope that's pretty good, but you're the way you feel things, guitar player, bass player, everybody has a different sound. So you can take something away from that part of the equation and just really make it not work. When you have great chemistry between people and somebody really adds something that works, you mess with it, it really does matter.
Yeah, you can tell a difference.
You can tell a difference for sure.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. I'm going to go with jazz drummer Danny Richmond. He was Charles Mingus's longtime drummer. He actually grew up. He wasn't born there, but he grew up in Greensboro,
Oh wow.
and he started out playing the saxophone, and didn't start playing drums until later, self-taught, and he got more accolades as a drummer than he did as a sax player. And then when he hooked up with Mingus, Mingus was like, "This is the drummer for me." And I think he played with Mingus for 21 years, I think,
Oh
until
wow.
Mingus passed away. And I love his style because it's not typical, it's very, for lack of a better, without being insulting, it's a simpler style, I think, because Mingus is plunking away over there and everything going on. You're not trying to fill every little nook and cranny with notes, like Michael just said about the space. You've got to have that space. And just it made a lot of as a drummer makes a lot of unusual choices. Even in his solos, they're so different, obviously some things, it's you solo, but a lot of the choices are, if you're paying attention, you can see that it's a different type of playing. And I'm really attracted to that because there are so many musicians on every instrument, but to me, drums, that they're carbon copies of another drummer, or they're picking up this and they're like, okay, this is popular. I'm going to sound like this, or I'm going to sound like that. And he had a very unique style, a very unique voice at the time, and I think back then in the 50s, 60s, drummers typically were trying to develop their own style as other musicians they developed their own tone, that, for lack of a better term again. And it's more difficult on the drums because you don't have the tonal, you don't have the notes, you don't have, you can't, it's not a brass where how you play it with your breath makes a huge difference, how you hold the instrument and the angles and stuff like that. But yeah, he just had such a unique style, and when I was getting into Charles Mingus, I was, oh yeah, this is great. But I was always like, wow, what's this drummer doing? What's he doing? Why is he doing this? And it really, really caught my ear. But yeah, he passed away in, I think, 1988. Yeah, at 56, very young.
Oh wow.
But yeah, and he played. He also played with. He did some tracks with Elton John and Joe Cocker later in the 70s.
Oh nice.
And played with Mark Allman. So he had there's an interview with him where he's talking about he did the rock kind of thing for a while, and he said the money was better, but his heart was still with the jazz, and so it was pretty cool. There's a cool little about 30-minute interview on YouTube somewhere.
Nice.
But yeah, he's such a unique player, and I was always drawn to that uniqueness.
I like that
cool.
choice. Love to talk about hometown hero. On top of that,
Yeah.
I love Mingus, but I can't say I'm familiar with Richmond. But I have to check it out.
Oh,
I have
yeah,
to listen
definitely.
to some more.
There's
Yeah,
there's a quick video on YouTube where he starts a solo, and he's got a J behind his ear. Can we say J on this podcast? And it falls out, and he's like,
we know what you're talking about.
Trying to play and look for it to see where it went, but it's freaking hilarious.
Stop the music.
Yeah. So anyway, sorry, I meant to mention that. And I forgot until you said that. I was like, oh yeah,
That's funny.
it's hilarious that they got it on film.
I'm gonna go a little astray. Not necessarily a bass guitar influence, but certainly an influence would be Trevor Horn. Whether everybody knows the myth of the legend of him trying to get the sound with the Buggles to Video Kill the Radio Star. It was such a big production, and Trevor Horn as a producer was the sound of the 80s. He produced so many hits through the 80s, but really an intelligent musician. If you listen to the Buggles' first album, a lot of good choices there, and he has several concerts on YouTube where he sings and plays bass, and just an outstanding ear. I really admire just everything he's done. His ability to produce things.
Put it all together.
The breakdown. I don't know if I think I sent you guys the video. The breakdown of how Owner of a Lonely Heart was recorded, and there's so many elements, and to think that you could do that and make all these elements separately and then put them together in a song. And knowing that they're not going to overshadow each other.
Or conflict,
Just an extraordinary musician. So Trevor Horn is my number 2 pick.
I just want to mention a couple other things that I do love him as a bass player.
Yeah.
I think that he is not appreciated enough. He has great finger tone.
Bass player, yeah.
And his pocket is great. I
Yeah.
really enjoy his bass playing. But to the other very important tracks, like you said, many tracks, but I believe Frankie Goes to Hollywood.
Yeah,
was
that album.
Wasn't Kiss from a Rose by Seal also?
Yes.
That?
Yes.
Wasn't that?
That
2 extremely important tracks that he did. In my opinion.
A really impressive I won't say album because I've got a couple of EPs from them, but Propaganda is a German band that he produced, and the production on their albums and their remixes, all done by him, are amazing. But I recommend the concert. Trevor Horn, forget where he's playing, but he's really an outstanding musician.
Definitely a very important figure in the last couple of the last few decades.
Yeah.
I've got quite a few session guys on my list, and I've got quite a few to go through, and I'm just kind of deciding here who I'm going to mention. But there are this is going to seem like an unusual choice, and they did have their own duo and certain amount of success as a group, but they're primarily known as songwriters, and they're husband and wife. And to me, I just don't think, probably 40 years ago they were more celebrated, but people have forgotten, how
Captain
great
Neil?
they were. No,
The first one I thought.
nope. Nick Ashford and Valerie Simpson.
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay, there you go.
All those great Motown tracks, Marvin Gaye, just unbelievable songwriters. I mean, just they contributed so many great songs. And I just don't think that they're celebrated enough. They just did so many great songs. And they really were as important as Holland Does Your Highland in a lot of ways. They really wrote sophisticated harmonies.
I think people that know them as a group don't know their history as
I
writers.
agree.
That's why you put them on the list, obviously. But I'm just stating.
Yeah, they were, like I said, back 40 plus years ago. They were much more, I think, highly thought of, respected. I think they're always respected, but I just don't think that people have forgotten how great they were and how important they were for music for a certain period of time. They really should be. If they're not in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame as songwriters, they should be. They're just fantastic, in my opinion. So I just really appreciate their catalog of songs.
Yeah, definitely.
So,
good choice.
Number 2 choice.
All right, where are we? I'm going to go with. I've already mentioned the band, Coheed and Cambria. Josh Eppard, I think, is such a tasteful drummer for that style of music, because it's a little proggy, it's a lot rocky, it's a little metal, it's a little poppy, and that's I'm
thinking about a T-shirt. It's a little rocky, it's a little proggy, it's a little poppy.
Yeah, there you go. But and to play the right parts when they're needed in the music that is that diverse at times, it's really cool. And again, a lot of choices, what he plays, it's what he leaves out. It's where he leaves the space where you're thinking somebody else would just play and plod right over it, and it wouldn't have the same feeling or the same effect. It would make the song suffer instead of enhance the music. No specific examples, just
Right.
almost every track he plays something really cool to complement the other instruments and the vocals.
Nice.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to them in a while, but I always enjoyed what I heard from them.
Yeah.
I think it is difficult for me. It's been a minute since I've listened to it, so I can't really say, but my ear has shifted in the last 10, 15 years since I first kind of got turned on to them. I can't remember exactly when that was, probably 20 years ago, maybe. But the guitar sounds do kind of, they have to be in a certain frequency for me, or it makes it difficult for me. And I've had this conversation with a mutual friend of ours who was not happy with my answer about some things. And I am very opinionated about these things, but
You
I
are.
have to have the frequencies, they have to sound right to me. And if it's not in the I don't know. Sometimes I can remember some things about their guitar sounds that I wasn't digging, but I really enjoy their arrangements and their songwriting.
Mhm.
And the vocals I really enjoy. There's so many things about them that I do like, but
Yeah. Well, that's the
I'll probably
same.
have
Like
to revisit them.
we've discussed, or I've discussed, Michael, snare drum sounds. Where
Oh,
if I don't like the snare drums, it can kill the whole vibe of the song for me. And
Yeah,
I can appreciate,
distracting.
this is a good song, but
Right.
if I'm in the wrong mindset, my ear will
Right.
just fixate on that snare, and I'm like, okay, turn it.
Yeah,
I can't
yeah, I
listen to
get
it right
that.
now.
Right.
Or
It's
it could be a
distracting.
bass tone, it could be a guitar tone, it could be a lead tone. That could be the greatest song in the world, and everything is great, and the lead guitar comes in, and it's like, why in whatever's name would you choose this sound for the solo? It doesn't go.
To me, it's not normally about sound, it's about vibrato.
Yeah.
Vibrato is incredibly important, or can be very distracting.
Mhm.
If certain players, uh, it's just an opinion. It's my opinion. I don't think I'm wrong, but you know, everybody has, they should express themselves however they're going to express themselves. But
Yeah.
vibrato is just such
Sure.
an important part of being a string player, or a wind instrument player, for that matter. But
Mhm.
there's a certain command that you need to have on the instrument.
I think that
Uh,
translates to drums on the cymbals, because
is
some
that right?
people, yeah, I mean, you have to have a certain touch with cymbals, or
Yeah.
some people will just bash literally
Bang,
crash a
bang,
crash
bang, bang,
cymbal.
bang, bang, bang.
Yeah, and I'm like, because people all the time, well, I broke this
That's
cymbal, I
interesting.
broke that cymbal. I'm like, I've cracked a cymbal before, but that's because I was a younger player and had
Right.
it for several years. And once I've learned how to play and learned how you draw sound out of membranophones and cymbals, you can hit as hard as you want to, and you're gonna kill the sound. You're gonna kill,
Hmm.
if you strum a guitar string too hard, you're gonna change that tone. You're gonna kill that sound. It's gonna change. If you hit a drum too hard, it's not gonna resonate the same. You have to have a certain, and same thing with a cymbal. Even more so if you crash the cymbal, if you smash it as hard as you're hitting the drum, you're overplaying it. You need that touch. And we said that, and I thought
Hmm.
about the people that, jazz guys talk about, oh, you can recognize a certain drummer from his ride cymbal, and that's true.
That's,
Yeah, I've
that
heard that.
sounds more like a right hand versus a left hand thing. No, with the string instruments, probably the left hand.
Yeah,
That's specifically what I'm talking about. But it sounds like right hand, your attack on an instrument. You have to have some finesse for
yeah,
sure with whatever instrument you're playing. But the string instrument, you can't just bash it
yeah,
unless you just want to bash it, which is
yeah. Of
cool
course,
too.
yeah.
I love that too. But yeah, vibrato is also always very important to me, and I focused on that from a young age. And it's very distracting when I hear somebody who's they're shaking their finger because they think that that's what you do, or they've seen other people do it, but they just don't understand how to do it, and it's just like, don't do that. I saw a video recently of somebody that it sounded okay, but it just looked so ugly. I thought, oh man, you shouldn't have filmed this. You should have just played the audio, and it would have been great. But they got their point across. But that's just my 2 cents. You can take that for what it's worth. So,
2 cents.
all right. So you're up, right, Mike?
Yes, and I'm gonna cheat a bit
Okay.
because I'm still a big Killing Joke fan. I can't read my writing, I swear. Should have put the context in. Yeah, I'm going to cheat because Paul Raven was a bass player on their first album, Killing Joke. And by the time Nighttime came around, Youth was the bass player at that time. But they both have such strong sounds, and it's just a meaty, growling bass guitar. Straight into the amp. It sounds.
Correct.
Paul Raven on their first album with Complications and The Weight. Those are two good examples of his playing. And by the time you get to Youth playing, I think that was 4 albums later, playing on Nighttime, Kings and Queens and Multitudes, both good examples of his style and his sound. And I just love that, they're just excellent bass sounds if you just want to rock out. Killing Joke was a unique kind of punk rock straddling the new wave fence, back then, but certainly an excellent rock band. And I think both bass players certainly, they knew what the band needed. They had similar styles and played to the song. So
I just heard in a Kirk Hammett interview, he mentioned Killing Joke just yesterday, or maybe early this morning. It was yesterday. So it's funny that Coheed and Cambria, 2 of the bands you guys talking about, I have recently were discussed.
Yeah.
Funny
Synchronicity.
Yeah, a little synchronicity. I am really debating on who I'm going to mention here, but this is somebody who I truly, truly think is not better known, but amongst musicians has phenomenal respect. He's a guitar player. I do have a drummer and a keyboard player coming up, believe it or not. But this guitar player is a gentleman named Dean Parks. Played so many great Steely Dan songs. The acoustic guitar on Deacon Blues, the opening guitar riff to Josie, just 2 of the incredible contributions he made.
It's one of my favorite opening riffs, Josie.
Mhm.
It's so.
He didn't write it, but he plays it so
well.
beautifully.
It's so exotic.
Yes, it is. And he played the acoustic guitar on "Change the World" by Babyface. Eric Clapton played the lead guitar on it, but he played the acoustic guitar on that through the rhythm. He's just got such a comfortable sound. I don't know how else to put that. We talked about Simon Phillips a few weeks ago about how he's, for my taste, he's almost too perfect. He plays everything incredibly well. Clearly, he's a master at his instrument, but it doesn't feel right to me. Dean Parks has that. He has that special mojo where he's playing these things perfectly right, but they feel great to me. That's the difference. And I don't know how you explain that. It's a very intangible thing, but everything he plays just feels right to me. Maybe it's because I'm a guitar player. I don't know. Maybe that's what it is, but I'm just such a fan of his work. He's such a master and such a great contributor in the world of pop music. I just can't say enough great things about him. Look him up if you do not know who he is. I would suggest you explore him. He's fantastic.
We've said it before. Some people just have that special sauce that they bring to the table,
and everybody loves him as a human being and the musician. I've never heard anybody say anything that he is one of the greats.
That's a bonus.
So,
that's funny. Yeah, you mentioned that. 'Cause I sent you guys that clip of the drummer playing those certain songs, but the feel was off. The person cannot play, obviously, but it just doesn't feel right. And that's funny because I commented, another friend of ours had posted something, and I went and listened to it. And it's a very, it's a drummer and he's very technically proficient, and he can play Buddy Rich stuff and do all this stuff, but it just doesn't have this feel. You know, it's technically perfect, and to the layman ear, it sounds amazing, but it's missing something. You know, it's like that feels there.
I've started to say to people, instead of, and I'm not saying that you're wrong in saying this, but just for me personally, I've started to start to say that instead of it doesn't have a good feel, it doesn't make me feel good. It's just probably truer, you know.
Mhm.
It's just how I interpret it and how it makes me feel.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm not getting a vibe off of it, that's all that matters. You know, I mean, it's my ears. I can't change my ears. You know, I can't. I do think I have pretty good taste. Maybe some people who don't agree with that, but you know, I do believe it's an educated and trained taste that I have. I've spent a lot of time cultivating it, you know, as we all have. I do believe I know what I'm talking about most of the time, but
As
yeah,
do we.
yeah, as we all do, yeah. But it has
We
to
were-
make you feel good, you know. You either
Yeah.
like it or you don't. But
Yeah.
you know, that's just that's my opinion.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm reminded just today, or maybe it was yesterday. I think it was today, this morning. I came across a video of a young girl playing "Heat of the Moment" by Asia, playing along with the drums. And
Oh, wow.
Carl Palmer has been criticized before for, speeding up and slowing down. And she played, I don't know if she played to a click track or if she just, played it as straight as she could. She may have had perfect time. But when there's that build up and it comes a cowbell part at the end, it was just dragging.
Mm.
I'm like, yeah, you got to be able to push and pull the beat.
Well, they probably took it and quantized it and gridded it and then clicked it. And because I don't know any young drummers anymore that aren't trying to play right on the click, and they think that's what you need to do every time. Well, that's sometimes yes, sometimes no.
Yeah, that seemed to be what she was doing. She might have been dead perfect in time, but it was dragging the song down. It just, you got to that part and you can feel it, like you're being held back, when you want to push ahead. So it makes a difference knowing whether to push or pull.
He's coming off that roll and he's on that cowbell and it's pushing,
Got to have that swing.
Mm-hmm.
Us old timers have a few tricks up our sleeves. We've been around the block, we know. Yeah, I agree with that. It's like I wasn't really familiar with it. The fact that Carl Palmer was criticized for.
Yeah, I'd heard that before. I can't imagine. It was a big hit. It was a great song. I don't know why anybody would say, he's rushing. It's like, well, he needs to rush. Otherwise, it's gonna ruin the feel of the song.
Am I imagining this, or is there not a clip of Charlie Watts, somebody telling him he's speeding up or doing something here, and he's like, I know, or something like that. He's like, that's what makes the song. That's push and pull,
These guys know what they're doing.
Survivor the other day from the debut Asia record. I always enjoyed that song.
Mm-hmm.
Not a hit, but a great song.
Yeah, those non-singles are still really good songs. I mean, you can listen to that album, the first two albums, you can listen to all the way through, I believe.
Yeah, Time Again, Wildest Dreams, Being at Fine. There's some good tracks.
Right? Even the song where the keyboard player is singing. What song is that?
Jeff Downs. Off the debut?
Yeah. Doesn't he sing? He sings one of the songs on the B side.
Oh, I don't know.
I'm unaware of that.
Yeah,
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, I'll look it up.
Do not know.
Hey, if you knew, kids, put it in the comments.
Yeah, kids know. They might. Let's see. Number what am I on 4? Another jazz guy. I mentioned him in passing before, long ago, on an earlier podcast. Stan Levy, drummer, started on the East Coast, ended up on the West Coast. But he died in 2005 as well. He was a guy that started out, actually played with Charlie Parker.
Oh, wow.
And Dizzy before bebop became the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, as Charlie had his struggles with drug use. Stan had even bigger struggles with drug use, and he missed that entire boat where he would have been.
Oh wow!
Like he and Charlie Parker were roommates. I mean, that would have been his golden ticket. Like they were best friends.
That was
and roommates.
probably a bad idea to be Charlie Parker's roommate.
Yeah, and especially when you're both got issues. But anyway, he missed that whole thing, and but he ended up being a successful musician as well, and played with tons and tons of people. Ended up moving out to the West Coast. Played with Peggy Lee. Played with Chet Baker. Played with a lot of West Coast, more laid back West Coast jazz. Just a drummer. He played. Did somebody tell me? I can't remember if he was right-handed but played a left-handed kit, or if he was left-handed and played a right-handed kit. I'm sorry, I apologize. I forgot that. Either one was one of the things he did. So it gave his sound not quite like everybody else. And
Ringo Starr.
Yeah. A lot of drummers back then, because left hand was evil.
Right.
Yeah, but he was a tremendous player.
Oh yeah, fantastic player. Played on the TV show soundtracks, movie stuff. Didn't do a ton of session work, but
it's good to hear that he
bounced back.
He's ultimately successful.
Mhm.
Just like cream will rise to the top.
Yeah.
Great musicians shall be heard. That's great to hear.
Yep, fantastic drummer.
Cool.
And again, a decent person as well. Got through his struggles, and great person.
That is good to hear.
Mm-hmm. All right. Someone more conventional on my list. Tieran Porter, the Doobie Brothers.
Oh, yes.
Love them, man.
I do too.
Some of the Doobie Brothers songs are really densely composed, so there's so much to listen to, but he stands out. Some of the songs I listened to the other day, can't remember what it was, but it's just, what would I play in this part?
Yeah.
I would have to play, if I were creative enough and intelligent enough, I would play exactly what he played, because
that's a big
it's just Michael. Perfect. That's a big if. That's why I said if. I'm not a smart man, Jenny. Long train running, taking it to the streets. Those two songs are great examples of his creativity. He's such a brilliant player. I love his sound. Tremendous part of the Doobie Brothers, I think.
I totally agree.
And
an important background voice.
Yeah,
he really contributed background vocals that were important.
Describe that sound as round and warm.
Yeah.
Very warm, like full. I mean, just dense, but in a good way. Not in a. This is heavy, but dense. And this is a fulfilling. It's a very comforting warmth.
If you're a bass player and you want to practice groove, you want to find how to swing.
Mm-hmm.
Man, he's a perfect one to listen to.
And I wouldn't say it's one of the Doobie Brothers' greatest songs, but it's one of my favorite songs, and it's his song for someone special off Taking It to the Streets. I listen to that track as much as I do any of the Doobie Brothers songs.
Mm-hmm.
I just love his vocals on it. He sings lead on it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's got that 70s vibe to it, but I just really enjoyed the musicality of it. But it's one of my favorite songs that they did. 1976, good track in my opinion.
Yeah.
I really enjoy his bass work and his contributions to Doobie Brothers. I love that pick.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about Mr. Jim Gordon, a legendary drummer that had some issues, had a little schizophrenia, and did some bad things. But one of the greatest drummers of the last 50 plus years, in my opinion. This guy had the respect of everybody.
Yeah, everybody.
And played so many great tracks in rock's history. Truly one of the, I think one of the most gifted musicians of anybody in the last, like I said, 50, 60 years. Truly, truly one of the great musicians. Maybe not the nicest guy necessarily. Certainly once he got sick, he wasn't. But God, man, It's with Derek and the Dominoes. I know that he played. I believe he played the drums. I can't remember if he played the drum. He's played the drums on many great tracks. I could be wrong. Did he play the drums on You're So Vain? Carly Simon?
I'm not sure about that.
I think
Possibly, yeah.
I think he played the drums on that. I don't think that was Russ Kunkel, but I think it was Jim Gord. But he played so many beautiful parts. And him and Jim Keltner. I hope Jim Keltner is not going to be on anybody's list. One of those fantastic, just two of the greatest drummers ever, and has everybody's respect. Just solid, but great feel and creative. Came up with these contributions that really helped the song.
Yeah.
There's
That's the name of the game.
greater, there's nothing better that you can do as a musician. Contribute
right.
to something that's going to make the song better. Whatever it means, whatever it takes. That's the ultimate sacrifice you can make as a musician. You know, it's all about the music, man. That's what it's about, man. But yeah, I am a big fan of his work, and it's just too bad what happened to him.
Yeah.
Too bad, but just such a creative force.
And back then, I don't even know what, if any, treatment like they have now. I mean, I don't think anything was available. I mean, obviously it's a different time, but I don't even know what they would have done, you know, to help, you know.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how. I've never really studied all that stuff, but yeah, it's a shame.
Yeah.
You know, but you know, what are you going to do?
Yeah. Well,
he made his his contributions to the rock world and to music.
Yeah,
he definitely did.
Truly one of those people that should be celebrated more, in my opinion. And he is by a lot of musicians, but a lot of your average people who've never heard of him should know about him because he was great. That's my number 4 pick.
All right. Number 5 pick is a drummer you've all heard, even though you might not know it. Gary Malaber, Steve Miller Band's longtime drummer.
Oh, okay.
And as a kid, especially intro, like Take the Money and Run. Drums on Jungle Love. Just so tasteful and so technical, but not overplaying. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Great parts.
Oh,
did he? I wonder if he wrote those parts.
Yeah. I think he's got some co-writing credits on some of the songs as well. So he was. I mean, Steve knew he had a great drummer, and gave him basically
carte blanche
just to say, hey, play your parts, and if we're hearing something different, I'll correct you. But yeah, he played with Greg Kihn as well. And he was offered when Peter Criss left Kiss, he was approached to maybe be Kiss's drummer.
Is that right?
Yeah,
wow, I've never heard that before.
And so that would have been an interesting take on the new songs that Kiss would have written from then. It would have been curious because he was a more I love Peter Criss's drumming, but Peter Criss was a simple, good, solid rock drummer.
Mm-hmm.
And to have someone a little bit more technical on those songs, it would have. I don't know if it would have worked or not. That's like.
Well, Anton Fig played on Unmasked and Dynasty. He was much more technical.
Oh yeah, but he was trying to. Okay, this sounds like Kiss. I'll play like Kiss.
There's a lot of technical parts on those songs.
And he stretched out on Ace's solo album. Those are some great, fantastic parts on Ace's solo album.
If you listen to Two Sides of the Coin on Unmasked, I bet you have not heard that song in a long time. Anton Fig is doing some ridiculous things.
Oh yeah,
on that song.
I almost put him on this list. That's how ridiculously good he is.
I mean, this is really nothing like Peter Criss. I don't know what the band were thinking. I think it's cool, but it doesn't sound anything like Kiss. It doesn't sound like anything anybody ever played. I don't even know what he's doing. That's how crazy it sounds. It doesn't even, it sounds like he's going up and down instead of from left to right. That's what it sounds like. It's so crazy sounding.
I'm going to go check it out.
Two sides of the coin. Yeah, he's doing some interesting things. So yeah. I think that would have worked.
Yeah, with Steve Miller, he's also a really clean drummer.
Oh yeah.
Everything it's not just the way it's recorded. You could tell everything everything's perfectly balanced. The way he plays from a hi-hat to ride to snare to the toms. Anywhere he makes his way around, it's really clean and perfect, and such a talented drummer.
And he played with Eddie Money on the first
Oh,
several
is that
Eddie Money
right?
albums. That's him
Oh,
as well.
nice.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, he's played with the team. I think he did some Frampton tracks. He did a couple tracks to Poco, I believe. So he's played with a lot of people, and he's still out
Wait
there
a
playing
minute.
in
Now,
the day.
see, he wasn't an instructor out in LA, was he?
I don't know. He might have been.
He played with Eddie Money. I think he was an instructor in school when I was out in LA.
Maybe
He's a
so.
tall blonde.
I think he's. I don't know.
I
Pictures
don't
I've
think
seen him.
so.
I think he's a brunette. I think he's got dark hair. Now he does play keyboards and vibes as well. So I mean, maybe he did some instructing out there. I don't know.
I think this was the same guy. I didn't recognize his last name, but if he played with Eddie Money, this guy played with Eddie Money in the early 80s.
Yeah, it might have been. I don't know.
This guy was an instructor at LA Music Academy back in the when I was there.
You got any literature from back then you could look up?
I can find out. I'll look into that. I will get back with you on that. I think he was one of the instructors, but
Could
I
have
ran
been.
across him. I ran across him. I never really engaged with him. I ran across him a couple times. I know who he was.
Yeah.
Cool, man. Yeah, I just it's you can have a long industrious career, never
Oh,
really
yeah.
be a household name, and that's why we're talking about these people who've made contributions
Yep.
we feel are worthy,
Mhm.
should be known in a brighter light, shown in a brighter light.
Well, another someone else who is probably well known among musicians, but not so much among the general public, Juan Aldereta, whether he is with Racer X or the Mars Volta, just so tremendous. I love him, and he has an affection for pedal effects, which he taught me that it's okay to plug in and have a bunch of blinking lights and knobs and buttons under your bass. Not that that's important to his playing. He's a tremendous player. Whether it's Francis the Mule or Ambutexture, probably my two favorite albums from Mars Volta. Great player. I love to listen to him play, and he fits in that style of music too. Racer X, I haven't listened to as much, but he's certainly a standout there. He has he's not afraid to dive in, and he certainly who else has he played with recently?
Those are so
trying to think of-
diverse.
Well,
Yeah,
he played with Marilyn Manson.
Marilyn Manson is who I'm thinking with.
He played with a Scream after Racer X,
Yeah,
along with John Corabi, who later joined Motley Crue.
but
I would say that
very
he is very adaptable. I would
Yeah.
say that he's a chameleon. He
Yeah.
plays what is appropriate for that situation that he's in, and he does it very well. I saw him live with Racer X in Chicago back when we were kids.
Mhm.
My first NAMM show. In Ed's booth with Paul Gilbert and Bruce Boyer and Jeff Martin. And he was fantastic. I have pictures of that floating around somewhere. He was wearing a green cutoff t-shirt and green pants, I think. Yeah. The 80s, man. Yeah, he is fantastic. I don't know I guess is he fully recovered from his bike accident?
I think
several years ago.
I think so. Yeah, it was a long recovery where he was hit by a car,
Oh, was he hit by a car?
bicycle. I think that was the case. But anyway, it was a long recovery for him, and I think he's doing much better now. But yeah, I just love him. His YouTube channel where he talks about different effects pedals and twists all the knobs and shows you what you're not supposed to do with them.
The thing I really like
He's
about
not-
him, he's a real musician. He's not
Yeah.
just a great bass player. I love the fact that he understands the language, and really, whoever hires him has somebody wonderful that will contribute to whatever the greatest degree that anybody can. He understands music and is a true blue musician.
Yeah.
And I love his work, and I have liked his bass playing for a long time. Love that choice. Okay, so I think is this the final choice?
It's the final choice.
Your last up to bat.
Okay.
Clean
I
up.
was going to talk about a keyboard player, and I'm hesitant not to talk about this person. And maybe we can give one or two Um,
Just pick one.
I am going to talk about Bob Daisley,
Okay.
and there's a reason why. Bob Daisley has contributed a lot to rock and roll, and has not got his due, in my opinion.
He's done very wrong too, which we don't have
Yeah.
to go into the specifics, but
Well, without his contributions to Ozzy Osbourne, I
Ozzy
don't
would
think
not
it would.
be Ozzy Osbourne. Yeah.
Yeah, the guy was incredibly important. He wrote virtually all the lyrics, as
Mhm.
Geezer Butler wrote virtually all the lyrics for Black Sabbath back in the day. Ozzy is a talented melodician. I'm going to make up a word. He comes up with great melodies and understands music
yeah.
to a degree instinctively, and really knew how to project that. And I've heard a lot of people credit him. It's like he doesn't get the due he deserves. But Bob Daisley made these songs become songs. Jakey Lee has given him credit. Randy Rhoads, of course, died at so early into the band's career that not able to do that. But I think everybody understands the importance that he played in that situation. He was part of Rainbow in the late 70s. He was part of Gary Moore's band. And he just truly, truly is one of those players that you want in a band. Not only is just a solid bass player with a very good feel, not a technical player, but just it sounds great and knows how to lay it down where it feels great and solid.
And comes up
But-
with not unusual in an unusual way, but just parts that, oh wow, that's unique, Even
Yeah,
in the Ozzy, you listen to the bass and the remixes where it's not buried. And you hear the choices he's making, and it's like, wow, who would have thought of that,
The bass line on I Don't Know, I think, is great. It's really musical and supports the song, but it really is a great bass line.
Yeah.
I just think that he doesn't get enough credit, and it's a shame because he really has contributed to a lot, and just don't think he's gotten his due. And I think more people should. He should be super celebrated. He's just a really important guy. There's a lot of great musicians that I'd love to mention, and maybe we can mention a couple of people. And
we can do another one of these with musicians,
yeah. There's just a lot of people that should be celebrated, and be mentioned. But yeah, I do believe that Bob Daisley is an important figure in rock and roll, and definitely underappreciated by the masses. Those who know who he is really appreciate him, but more people should. So I guess we're done, right?
We done.
We're done.
Wow.
Go out and listen to all these artists.
Go hear the uniqueness.
Tell us what you think in the comments.
Please do that. And I just want to mention real quick, we don't normally do this, but we were going to announce what our next episode is going to be about ahead of time. And that will be focusing on one record. This will be the first episode focusing on one record. And that record will be Rush's Moving Pictures, released 44 years ago this month. So check us out for that. And thank you for everyone who's checked in for this episode. Please like and subscribe, and we will see you soon. Take care.
All right. Be well. It's like, oh, Jamey's at a base.